in your game, or if you have questions about the metaverse, the next session is for you. Now, Gary Ma has spent over 16 years operating globally across multiple industries, launching businesses in live music entertainment, e-commerce, gaming, and blockchain. Now at Epik, Gary works with brands and IP owners to create premium digital merch and NFTs. Gary, passing the time over to you.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining me today for a presentation that will explore IP licensing for games, NFTs, and the Metaverse. Hello, my name is Gary Ma. I'm COO of Epik. Epik is the leading B2B NFT company that works with AAA gaming platforms and giant entertainment IP brands to create in-game NFT goods and marketplaces. We're a premium digital merchandise NFT platform with years of experience as a digital licensing agency, putting brands into games. Our current client roster includes some of the biggest names in the industry, such as Tencent, Garena, Warner Music, Universal, and more. In today's presentation, I'm going to discuss with you a crucial aspect of our digital futures, which is IP licensing, how it relates to beyond just games, but into NFTs as well, and the impacts it has in the metaverse. I'm also going to bring it down to an execution level for you and teach you an easy to follow licensing playbook to help you get more name brands and IP content for your marketplace, your games, and your metaverses. So today we'll discuss, firstly, the psychology behind the NFT hype. This is from an individual consumer level, what drives people to spend crazy money for a bunch of pixels on a screen. Secondly, we'll get into the business of licensing, and primarily from a licensor's perspective to help you in your approach to IP. And lastly, I'll give you a licensing playbook, as promised. This is a quick step-by-step guide to help any of you in the audience that is looking to take advantage of the opportunity and incorporate more IP licensing into your products or business strategy. Okay, well, let's start with this. Here's a picture of a nice rock. And if you don't know the story behind it, it's called the Ether Rock. And a crypto investor named Justin Sun spent almost $500,000 for this digital rock. Now here you might be thinking, well, he's a crypto guy, he's wealthy, so it's not too outrageous or unbelievable that they'd be throwing around money like this. But then you also have somebody like Steph Curry and other NBA superstars that purchased Bored Apes and have been flaunting them around all over Twitter, etc. The question is why? Well, it's because people pay real money for virtual items for the same reason that they pay real money for any consumer commodity, namely status, identity, membership, class, and performance. So what Steph Curry is signaling to the rest of the world is, I'm in the know, I know what's happening in NFTs and in crypto, and then it becomes an extension of their identity, right? Does this sound familiar? What is it all starting to sound like? It's the same reason and psychology that people buy name brand stuff. Brand affinity is a way we signal certain messages to the rest of the world. Are you a Ferrari guy or a Tesla guy? Are you an Apple or a Samsung person? So whenever we're talking about name brand items, we're really talking about IP licensing. We use it a lot in this conversation today, but the term licensing means the grant of right to use another party's intellectual property on their products or services in exchange for financial consideration, typically a royalty. So how is this important to you? Well, let's take a look at this. When you make a piece of digital art, that's your IP. You own that creation. Now you can sell it and monetize it. This idea of IP ownership is the same whether we're talking about the creator economy, meaning something that you or I made, or big brands like Disney and Marvel. They all originated from the same thing, right? Someone at some point in time created something, and through developing that and monetizing it, it created a brand that we recognize today. So you can see everything NFT is IP, and it's all licensing. There's many, many ways to incorporate IP, and I can help you understand a bit more how licensors view NFTs to give you a better understanding how to work with them. At Epik, we spend a lot of time educating and hosting workshops to IP owners about NFTs and their digital strategy. You can catch us at some of the biggest licensing conferences around the world, including the Brand and Innovation Summits, the Brand Licensing Expo, and many more. For licensors, the most important thing for them to understand is that NFTs are a completely new product category. It has very interesting features that make it extremely powerful. Number one is that we can verify ownership, and the NFT itself and wallet act like a bearer certificate. The second thing is that NFTs are digital. This means it can represent anything. It can contain or reference any kind of value, and it's portable. This means you get to do really cool things with your product and merchandising strategy, as well as your marketing and engagement with your customers as well. When you combine these elements, brand affinity with a new asset class and a new product category, you come up with something very powerful. And this offers endless possibilities for you as well in how you incorporate the IP and the values and utility contained within your NFT. It's really up to you. Your creativity sets the rules here. Okay, I'm going to take this opportunity. And coming up, we have a little bit of a gamescom exclusive. I'm going to give you a sneak peek on a yet to be released video NFT from a drop we did recently. So in August, we partnered with Gameloft for Brands and introduced the first ever NFT collaboration with a AAA game. So we had an interactive in-game racing event called the Epik NFT Challenge, where players competed in a special race tournament inside the game, and the leaderboard winners received an exclusive digital NFT. Not only that, but in epic fashion, we produced a commemorative physical NFT for those as well. This is the first time that we've shown this video NFT publicly, and I'm dropping it to you here at Gamescom. Hope you enjoy. What you're going to see is this 5-piece NFT collection depicting a racer's journey as he races to the moon. His achievement in the end wins him a legendary NFT trophy. This will be crystallized inside a physical frame with a digital display of the NFT that you can then show off to your friends in real life. We have some down at our booth down here on the exhibition as well, so please stop on by and you can see it in person for yourself. Here we go. Take a look at this. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. And I think that just scratches the surface when we're talking about how NFTs can start being incorporated inside games and all the functionality and utility that could be, part of that experience. NFT utility and value is something that will be discussed a lot in the, in the near term future. And that's because it's the next logical advancement beyond just pure digital art, which is kind of what is the most prevalent thing right now today. Digital art is great. It's beautiful to look at. You can admire it. But what can you do with it? How do you capture more real value beyond just a speculative art appreciation? Well, in reality, there's lots, right? There's everything from NFT ticketing, for live and virtual events. There's music NFTs that are exclusive for the NFT owner. There's membership clubs that are tied to real world memberships that you're seeing, even such thing as the Bored Apes and many other kind of NFT clubs that are popping up. We're seeing art and fashion collabs with real world merchandise. And as well, we're seeing luxury artwork tied to physical paintings. I'm going to show you this right here. It's a beautiful artwork that we're dropping in our marketplace by renowned artist Nazarov. That was part of our 20th anniversary of September 11th collection. We were honored, privileged to be the blockchain NFT partner for the September 11th 20th anniversary this year. But what's interesting about this artwork is that whoever gets the NFT will also own the physical painting on an 8-foot by 6-foot canvas. It's beautiful. Nazarov artworks sell in the millions of dollars. So some of the real value you're getting there with that NFT as well. So I'm sure you get the idea. We're only just starting to scratch the surface. The enormous opportunity in front of us is in the metaverse. So for you Star Trek fans, consider this the final frontier. NFTs within the metaverse, NFTs are the driving force to that creation of unifying an open metaverse. Digital stuff that is open, interoperable, transferable, and permanent. These are the building blocks. In essence, NFTs become the unifying feature and force behind this interconnectivity of platforms and thus almost become the fabric of the metaverse itself. So if you're building any type of open world or metaverse, licensing and utilizing IP can be extremely important for you from a business strategy and may even be a necessity from you from the standpoint of a product standpoint, so that in order for you to anchor your users' virtual experience to the real life that they're familiar with. It's kind of like, oh, I see a Starbucks in this virtual world. I see a Starbucks in the real world. My brain is connecting the dots here. That virtual world feels much more real life to me at that point. So NFTs have become the means by which we traverse this Web 2 and Web 3. It's the bridge between the physical and the digital. Again, kind of re-summarizing that, marrying the opportunities with NFT as a technology with the power and embedded consumer preferences for brand affinity will not only create immense value for you, but will also solve some of these innate challenges we face when we go from a physical life to a more digital experience. Well, I know that was very sci-fi, like I said, in some cases, but as you dive more and more into it, it'll all start piecing together. But as promised, let's dive into a quick playbook to help you get IP. I created this 4-part licensing playbook as a step-by-step guide that will help enable you to plan and execute your company or product's licensing goals. Chapter 1 is called The Field of Play. In this chapter, we discuss what licensing is and how it operates, how it uniquely operates, actually. And in chapter 2, we'll introduce who the players are. And the first player to understand is your opponent. That would be the IP owner. Know what motivates them, and you'll be in a better position to negotiate your deals. So we'll learn about them as well as the quarterback and why that position is the most important role. In chapter 3, we'll talk about strategies. In this extremely important chapter, we'll discuss whether or not you're even ready for IP and what you can do about it. And last but not least is the end game. Here, we're going to stand at the finish line and start with asking why. Why do you want to invest in licensed content? And there are many valid reasons, which we'll analyze one by one. All right, here we go. So what is licensing? I'm going to use the word licensing a lot today, or I have been, sorry. And if you're less familiar with it, here's a quick definition from my friend, Danny Simon, who wrote this book on licensing. As we discussed earlier, simply licensing is using someone else's IP on your products. The concept is straightforward enough. We all get it from a consumer perspective, but from a business practice, it's not always so straightforward. And here's why. Well, firstly, licensing can be complex. There's lots of legal considerations. There could be many stakeholders involved, and it may be hard to place a true value on certain IP. And that's why they call things like the Mona Lisa price list, right? Secondly, some IP may be extremely difficult to access or negotiate for. The not so well-known truth about the licensing industry is that it's not what you know. It's not just about how much money you have. It's also about who you know. The licensing industry has never really been disrupted before, even with the internet. It's all really relationship based. So even a wealthy, rich person can't simply call up Disney and say, hey, give me your stuff. Getting the right access is key. So relationships are a must. With the right quarterback on your team, you can get access and get deals done faster, and even get better deal terms in some cases. So on to chapter 2, who are the players? One of the most critical exercises to do is to understand the mindset of the licensor, as we mentioned earlier. And you're going to get into a negotiation process with the licensor at the end of the day. So understanding what is their big drivers. Money is important. Yes, definitely. Money is a consideration. However, with the bigger the brand, the less they're interested in money, and the more they care about the brand's reputation. So different licensors also have different strategies, things like how many deals they want to do for in a specific period. This could be a strategy thing, considering the frequency they want to do licenses. A good analogy here would be almost like, Robert De Niro back in the day when it was very relevant for him to just make one movie every once in a few years and stay relevant, right? But I would say things have really gotten to a much more content heavy world that we live in. So in order to stay relevant, it's more like The Rock. That guy's in, handful of movies every single year, and he's all over social media, right? So I think it's time for a lot of licensors to also readjust and calibrate how they approach their digital strategy and how frequent in their capacity they want to do IP. And understanding that from their standpoint is very important for you. Essentially, it's a bandwidth constraint, right? Now, next would be also, it's important for you to know for the licensor is like what is about timing, which is always important. You could be the best thing since sliced bread. And they would love to even work with you. But, oops, maybe they have a licensee in a conflicting space and they can't do it. So there's all these type of things that you don't know what you don't know until you really get to understand the position that your licensor is in. There's even things like internal structure. Who makes the decisions inside these companies? Is it one owner of the brand story? Or is it more like a family-run IP? Or even on the other extreme, it's a huge publicly traded company, with a giant licensing committee. Who knows? So these are some of the things that you should understand before you approach the negotiation table. At Epik, we've worked with clients that are everything from the family-owned IP all the way to the mega media conglomerates like Viacom, etc. And I can tell you that they operate very differently across the spectrum. This brings us on to the next actor on the playing field, which is the quarterback. Now, as you can see, licensing can be complex. What's your plan? How are you going to access the IP owners? What should you be paying? What are the terms? In short, who's going to help you call these plays so that you can figure all that out? As mentioned, is the quarterback. And this person can be either internal or external to your organization. When I say internally, this would mean bringing the expertise in-house, developing your own BD, essentially, to handle this area. Alternatively, you can also work with an agent. There are certain advantages to working with an agent based on your situation. It's not a one-size-fits-all. Actually, on that point, about not being a one-size-fits-all, it's very easy to generalize. You'd think that a company like Tencent, can afford its own BD team and have their own dedicated staff to go and get licensed. And of course they do. They have huge teams, huge budgets, but they also still use agents like us at Epik. And that's because the licensing, like I mentioned, is not so straightforward. It's not a buy and sell transactional process. And there's a lot of complexity to work through. So long story short, who's going to be your quarterback? There are solutions out there. Just find the right fit for you. If you decide to work with an agent, I suggest finding one with a good track record that knows the industry you're in, as well as can be based on performance base so that they're not charging you an arm and a leg on retainers with no guarantee of delivering value, etc. Okay, enough about the actors on the field. Let's get into strategies. Here's a quick reality check. Not everyone is ready to become a licensee and to attract licensors to want to work with them. Why is that? Well, it's because, like I've said a few times, it's not just about the money. Brands are also looking for the right fit and the right reputation, the right timing, etc. So if you're Fortnite and brands are kicking down your door, great for you. If you're not, that doesn't mean all is lost. Here's what you can do about it. We would suggest start by getting a track record. The more and more IP you work with, the more trustable you appear to licensors. You get to build your own reputation and build that track record. I'd also suggest that you start gathering data. Build compelling metrics for engagement and other KPI beyond just the dollar figure, beyond just the money that you're going to bring to these offers. A third thing could be open-minded to what type of IP you want. We're finding that some of the best performing collaborations are with content that is both perfectly in line, but also fun stuff you wouldn't normally see. It's a little bit of that fine balance. So be open-minded to what kind of IP you may even want to bring into your products. Another good strategy could be to explore joining forces. You don't always have to go at it alone. Epik is the only company successfully putting IP into multiple games and placements at the same time under one campaign. So this is something that you can do as well if you don't want to buy the IP on your own. You can look at joining forces for a collaborative campaign. That's one idea. As you can see, there are definitely strategies you can do to get access to and or increase your attractiveness to IP owners. Approach it like a journey is what we usually advise, and keep getting bigger and bigger brands until one day, maybe Disney comes knocking on your door as well. Well, as we all heard before, content is king. And IP has been proven to be the heavyweight champion. Nothing is more exciting than new original content. Crossovers are a phenomenal way to create new content and new merchandise. And of course, they are perfect to make collector items for, which is great for NFTs. IP owners understand and are familiar with the concept as well, which is great. Short-term crossovers are ways for brands to generate new original content with you, without being exposed to heavy brand risk. So that in terms of the short-term format, that's actually pretty interesting as well from a strategy standpoint. But in digital, it's interesting because you can get in and get out. And this is very attractive for brands. And you should use that to your advantage being in a digital product as well. Okay, folks, we've reached the final stretch. In this last chapter in the licensing playbook, it's called the end game. To determine what is the right outcome for you that you're attempting to achieve with your licensing program, you must start by asking why. Why do you want to invest into licensing IP? What's your goals? Think about these things even before getting into the nitty-gritty details about questions like budgeting and quantity and territories, etc. In our experience working with hundreds of game companies and marketplaces, the reasons we hear most are A, to increase user engagement, more marketing tools to play with. B, to increase user retention. Of course, fresh content keeps the players coming back. The third is to increase monetization. Name, brand, sell. I think we all know that. So there's new opportunities for you there as well in terms of new monetization. At the end of the day, new content means new opportunities. It's as plain and simple as that. Consumers love options and they're a big fan of brands. Another reason to license IP is to boost your game's profile and also your company's profile. Working with big brands definitely adds a perceived value to both consumers and investors if that's your target audience. There you have it. That's the licensing playbook. To re-summarize it for you, chapter 1, we went into, knowing and understanding the field of play that you're on. Chapter 2, we looked at the players, how to pick your team, really, and most importantly, your quarterback. Chapter 3, we looked at executing on different strategies to help you in your IP journey. And chapter 4, we started by posing the priorities of starting with the end in mind. Okay. There you have it. I hope you enjoyed this presentation. I hope it was helpful and informative for you. Thank you all for joining me today, and hopefully we'll speak again soon. Take care.
Thank you so much, Gary. It was so nice to hear from you. Well, let's bring Gary live. Hi, Gary. How are you doing today?
I'm great, Fiona. How are you doing?
I'm good as well. Where are you tuning in from?
Yeah, actually here in Singapore, which is great. So right here in the heart of Southeast Asia and gamescom.
Oh, that's so lovely. Okay, so Gary, we do have quite a number of questions for you. So let's bring up the first one. Now, what do you think about the ecological footprint of NFT or blockchain? Now, this is from Lawrence.
Great question, Lawrence, and thanks for sharing. Yeah, I mean, it's an important topic and it's gotten a lot of attention this year. There is a lot of data about just how much energy a blockchain consumes and how it compares with other activities, whether or not to judge whether the energy is justified or not. At Epik, we're very mindful of this topic. We have built a proprietary hybrid marketplace that reduces the number of on-chain transactions, thus essentially reducing the ecological footprint that's incurred in all the things that we do. We also know that there's also a lot of new chains and more scalable solutions that are emerging all the time. I mean, this industry is very progressive and very innovative, and it moves very, very quickly. We've actually even invited one of our partners to join us at our exhibition booth, which is Huobi EcoChain, which is characterized by high speed, kind of low energy consumption solution there. So we're always exploring and being mindful, and I think the industry has that attention on it as well. And I think we're going to reach further along where we can start to reduce some of that impact over time as well. So I mean, to sum it up, Epik is committed to normalizing eco-consciousness. We believe every game maker and NFT provider has an obligation to reflect, our culture and change our thinking about what we can do to address climate change at every level and every touch point. So yeah, we're committed to changing the conversation and help driving forward the fun and sustainability.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for that, Gary. We do have another question up for you. Let's take a look at that. Now, this one's from Jane. Now, Metaverse is a hot buzzword. What does it really mean, and how far away are we from experiencing it?
Yeah, thanks for that, Jane. That's an interesting one as well. I think when people think of the Metaverse, they envision this oasis from Ready Player One type of scenario, a giant virtual reality, everyone's jumping in and then living these alter identities. But a metaverse is simply a shared virtual space that is accessible to many people that you experience digitally and not with your physical self. So if you think about it, we already have many metaverses, Roblox and Fortnite and Facebook, etc. They all tout themselves as metaverses, and arguably they're not wrong. It's just apparent that we're in a very early stage of reaching a metaverse that we envision, which is that giant open world with, persistency that brings with it all the interoperable digital experiences. So when we think about where we're at today and understanding how many metaverses that are existing and will continue to have, because, people like different things and they like variety. So there's never going to be a one solution for everybody. There's going to be multiple different metaverses as we continue moving forward. So we believe at Epik to achieve a true metaverse, it's not about building this giant oasis-like virtual reality that sucks everyone into it. as I mentioned in the talk at Epik, our approach is actually to build the interconnectivity between all of these existing and soon to be built metaverses, creating more access across these different platforms, building the interoperability between them, creating more shared experiences across them, enabling digital commerce and digital item transferability. We believe this is the key to unlocking the metaverse. So, and this is something we're creating right now. And of course, rightly so, we call it the Epikverse. So go back to your original question. In some respects, we're already here. It's going to be more and more prevalent in the coming years when it comes to the metaverse.
Well, that sounds exciting. Thank you for taking the question, Gary. We have time for one final question, so let's bring that up. What are some of the challenges facing mainstream games to adopt more NFTs or blockchain into their games?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just a matter of time, to be honest. And it takes a company like Epik that has both the expertise from a blockchain technology standpoint that also understands the needs of mainstream game companies, right? It's just a matter of time because it's all converging. It's just this one giant spectrum. And on one side, you kind of have these really crypto blockchain native games. And on the other side of the spectrum is more the mainstream traditional type of games. But in the future, every game, every digital platform is going to have some element of NFT in there. It's just a matter of to what degree and how they incorporate it into their experiences, right? It's not a binary thing. It's not like you are a crypto game or you're a mainstream game, et cetera, et cetera. What we're finding and what we're helping and assisting with a lot of our gaming clients is to help them incorporate these new digital like merchandise and NFT capabilities and products and services they can offer to their gameplay and their users in incremental stages. So, they can open up aspects of their economy, a little bit at a time, 5% of their, merchandise, 10%, their game economies, et cetera. So it's definitely not binary. And we're going to see that convergence happen. And more people are going to be more open-minded to it as they're in the creation and development phase of their games. So it's all going to be kind of one thing in the future.
Well, thank you so much for sharing with us, Gary. It was lovely to speak with you and also hear from you today. And hopefully we'll get to see each other very, very soon. Take care, Gary. Thank you for dialing in.